Hello everyone, my name is Mohamed Emin Jerbi. I'm a master student at the Institut Supérieur de Gestion at the University of Tunis. I am very pleased to present to you the paper entitled Sentiment Analysis of Code-Switched Tunisian Dialect, Exploring RNN-based Techniques, which is part of my research work conducted to obtain my master's degree. This work is supervised by Hademi Ashur and Emna Susi, co-authors of this paper, to which I am very thankful. Here is the outline of the presentation. After a brief introduction to the problem addressed in this work, I am going to give an overview of the main related work. I will then present the proposed approach to sentiment analysis of code-switched Tunisian dialect, then describe experiments and present the obtained results. And finally, I will conclude the presentation with some perspectives. Let's take a minute and observe these three comments that I extracted exclusively from social media, precisely from Facebook. As we can see, comments are written using both the Latin and the Arabic alphabet. We can also notice that all of them have code switching within their text. So, what is code switching? Code switching is the alternation of at least two linguistic codes in a single conversation. It is defined according to Poplack as the mixing by bilingual or multilingual of two or more languages in discourse, often with no change of interlocutor or topic. In these examples, indeed, code switching happens between the Tunisian dialect and the modern standard Arabic when the Arabic script is used, and between the Tunisian dialect and the French language when the Latin script is used. In this work, we are dealing with the Tunisian dialect, which is known as the Darja or Tunsi. It is a variant of the Arabic languages, quite different from the MSA because it derived from different substrates and a mixture of several languages, such as Punic, Berber, Arabic, Turkish, French, Spanish, and Italian. We focus in particular on sentiment analysis in Tunisian dialect textual productions that are generated on the social media and which are characterized by very frequent use of code switching. The automatic processing of the Tunisian dialect on social networks is a challenging task and is still in its infancy, especially when considering the very low availability of linguistic resources and dedicated NLP tools. Despite the growing interest, it arouses among many researchers in the last few years. Many works have considered code switching when treating sentiment analysis. Here are some few examples. From the studies we referred to in our article, we noticed that many approaches have dealt directly with sentiment analysis of code switching text. These include linguistic approaches, machine learning, deep learning, and hybrid approaches. These perspectives lead to the conclusion that deep learning is the most effective of them and considers the multilingual text in its entirety without going through language detection. As far as the Tunisian dialect is concerned, there is very little work or sentiment analysis. We have identified four, of which only two have taken into account the two Arabic and Latin scripts, and therefore code switching. We shall be focusing on these two. So, the first study is by Saidi et al., who used a manually annotated dataset extracted from Twitter and compared 5 different classifiers: naive Bayes, support vector machines, key nearest neighbor, decision trees, and random forest, using the information gain feature selection method applied to sentiment analysis. The second study is by Mdafer et al., who proposed a freely available and annotated Tunisian dialect corpus of 17,000 comments, extracted from Facebook called TSAC as Tunisian Sentiment Analysis Corpus. They focused on sentiment analysis of the Tunisian dialect, applying machine learning techniques to determine the polarity of comments such as support vector machines, SVM, naive Bayes, NB, and multi-layer perceptron, MLP. They trained the Tunisian dialect sentiment analysis system and obtained an accuracy of 77% with SVM 78% with MLP, and 58% with NB. Based on the deduction we made earlier, we came with a solution to implement and evaluate some deep learning techniques that have not yet been explored in the context of Tunisian dialect sentiment analysis. Our approach is based on RNNs, recurrent neural networks, and more precisely on LSTM networks. RNNs are considered to be more suitable for the SA task than CNNs, since they consider the sequential aspect of an input, where the word order is important, and since they are able to treat input having variable lengths. Considering the remarkable results achieved in various classification tasks using LSTM networks, which are enhanced variant of RNNs, we propose to explore a set of models based on variants of LSTM networks for the Tunisian dialect sentiment analysis. The global architecture of the proposed models is presented in the following figure. In this architecture, each extracted review is mapped into vectors of real numbers, a very well-known technique when working with text called word embeddings. In this technique, words are encoded as real-valued vectors in a high-dimensional space, such that the similarity between the words in terms of close meaning translates to closeness in the vector space. So, in our case, we used the Keras embedding layer that is learned jointly within our examined LSTM models. So each word is taken as one input in a sequence. The first layer is initially randomly initialized randomly, and the word embeddings are learned jointly on 13,655 reviews from the TISAC corpus. So in this work, we propose to explore the following LSTM-based models. Firstly, long short-term memory LSTM. LSTM is a type of artificial RNN which was developed to address the issues of explosion and disappearance of gradients that can be experienced during the training of traditional RNNs. A common LSTM unit consists of a cell, an input gate, an output gate, and a forgetting gate. The cell stores values over arbitrary time intervals, and the three gates control the flow of information into and out of the cell, controlling thus the information to forget or to pass on the next time step. Secondly, deep LSTM, also called stacked LSTM. It is an expansion of the original model that includes several hidden LSTM layers, each layer containing several memory cells. A stacked LSTM architecture can be indeed defined as an LSTM model composed of several LSTM layers. An LSTM layer on the above provides a sequence output instead of a single value output to the LSTM layer below. The stacking of LSTM hidden layers allows the model to become deeper by adding levels of abstraction of input observations over time and aims to give a more accurate description of the deep learning techniques. Thirdly, BLSTM, bidirectional LSTM. A bidirectional LSTM consists of a forward LSTM considering the input from the beginning to the end, and backward LSTM considering the input from the end to the beginning. It interconnects two separate hidden layers that operate in opposite direction to a single output, which enables them to collect information from past and future states. Lastly but not least, deep stacked BLSTM. This model is a combination of the two previous models. It is based on stacking several BLSTM layers. In this branch, we present the various performed experiments in order to evaluate the proposed models and discuss the obtained results. We first start by describing the datasets we used in these experiments. We used the freely available annotated Tunisian dialect corpus proposed by Mdafer et al., presented earlier and called TSAC, Tunisian Sentiment Analysis Corpus. So, as shown in Table 1, TISAC contains a number of 17,069 Tunisian dialect comments in total, of which 8,854 are annotated as positive and 8,250 as negative comments. It contains both comments transcribed in the Arabic script and comments transcribed in the Latin script. Some comments mix the two scripts. The collected corpus is composed of informal and non-standard vocabulary, enclosing elongated words, abbreviations, emotions, etc. So TISAC corpus was split into a training set and the test set, as shown in Table 2. We used the same datasets as in DAFER AR in order to be able to compare the performance to our proposed models with theirs. Table 3 shows the obtained results while recalling the performance achieved by DAFER and all models. Let us first examine the evaluation results of the 4 proposed models, which are based on various variants of LSTM networks. We can clearly see that in our case, the deep LSTM models lead to the best. All our experiments were performed using Keras, the Python deep learning library. So the 4 proposed models were trained using the TISAC training set and testing set using the TISAC test set that we just presented in Table 2. We can also notice that using the bidirectional LSTM slightly improves the classification compared to the sample LSTM models. It seems that the bi-LSTM models benefits only very little from exploring the preceding and following contexts in the case of the handled informal multi-script and code-switched Tunisian dialect corpus. On the other hand, performance improved significantly with stacking layers within deep models. Deep LSTM and Deep BLSTM had led indeed to the best results with 90% and 88% accuracy values, as the bi-LSTM model improves the simple LSTM classification and the deep LSTM model significantly improves it. We were expecting the model combining layer stacking and bidirectional LSTM to read the best results, but this was not the case since this model was outperformed by the deep LSTM model. So here again, the deep model doesn't seem to benefit from the double exploration of the preceding and following context BLSTM. So even though the predictions of complex deep neural networks are very difficult to interpret, we may explain these results by the very particular nature of the handled data, composed of informal vocabulary mixing different scripts and uncrossing code switching that may lead to rather complex grammatical structures, and the relatively limited size of the used corpus. So we believe indeed that the efficiency of the proposed models is likely to increase with a larger volume of training data. So when it comes to compare our results with those obtained with DAFER and all, the best results, 98%, are obtained using the deep LSTM model, significantly outperforming the best results obtained by DAFER and all, 77% and 78% that were achieved by the SVM and MLP classifiers. So, in our paper we tackled the issue of sentiment analysis of Tunisian dialect textual production that are generated on social media. This type of data still presents number of challenges due to its informal, multi-scripted and code-switched nature. We consider our work as a primary study that aimed to explore some deep learning techniques that were not yet applied to the case of Tunisian dialect on the social media. And we propose indeed to experiment with various variants of RNNs, namely LSTM, BLSTM, deep LSTM, and deep BLSTM. Our experiments performed on TSAC datasets showed that we can reach a high performance with an accuracy of 90% using a deep LSTM model, outperforming the latest best proposed models on TSAC datasets in DAFRE. Furthermore, we intend to expand this work and enhance it by working on generating a larger volume of annotated data on the one hand, and on the exploration of other approaches such as introducing the attention mechanism using other types of RNNs such as GRUs, etc. on the other hand. Thank you for your attention.